Good day, friends. Before I start my discussion on person as an individual as a person is largely taken from Jacques Maritain The Person and the Common Good. The dialectic between education and society starts and ends in the individual person. On the one hand, the person as an individual, by virtue of his material nature, is a part of a whole. This whole is society itself. As part of the whole society, the individual exists for this whole as a part exists for the whole. He exists for the sake of the whole, which means that he exists to further the attainment of the common good of society by society. He shares in the social endeavor of making society good. The social endeavor of making society good is the function of education, par excellence. Nay, if making itself good is the highest function of society, then education, which makes good the individual, in turn is the function of society, par excellence. Education and society exist for each other, and the individual person is the fulcrum upon which both of them turn. On the other hand, the individual as a person, by virtue of his spiritual nature, is a whole within a whole. As a whole, the person exists for its own sake. This means that while society exists for its own sake by virtue of its wholeness, society exists also for the person by virtue of the person's wholeness. But since the wholeness of society is accidental and not substantial, while the wholeness of the person is substantial and not accidental, and while society and the person exist for each other, the primacy of importance belongs to society existing for the person, and not the other way around. The personal endeavor of attaining the ultimate good of one's life is therefore paramount in the consideration of social life, of the social endeavor of making society good, and of course, of education. These three exist for the person's attainment of the ultimate good, even as the person himself participates in this endeavor for his own sake and for the sake of other persons composing the whole of society. This personal social dynamic is most pronounced within the most fundamental and radical dynamism of the smallest human community, which is the family, the basic unit and natural foundation of society. It is within the natural context of the family that both individuality and personhood are supposed to be preserved, protected, and fostered. The interpersonal interaction within the family then becomes educative or formative of the character of the person, to the extent that both individuality and personhood can naturally flourish within it. It is in this context that we can say that parents are the first, by order of nature and by order of time, educators of their children, though in a broad sense, all members of the family educate each other. Since education is not a mere accumulation of knowledge, but essentially a formation of the total character of the person, all aspects of human life, personal and social, are involved in the process and or in the event. This implies that while the family is the natural foundation of society, where the most profound part of education takes place, the help of other families within a larger community is also essential. A community life is family life writ large. Further, though increasingly difficult, society as a whole ought to be a community writ large. In view of this, education is a dynamic process of mutual causation and reinforcement of different levels of being in the world of man. This means that a good society can help the person become good himself, and a good person can help society become good itself. This is also true of evil societies and evil men. In the concrete, however, a society is composed both of good and evil men. The challenge is to make society and man predominantly good. The said challenge ultimately lies in individual persons as the fulcrum of both society and education, given that only individual persons have free will. Since free will is a central issue in education and social life, grace also ought to be central to them. That ends my piece. Thank you for listening.